The dining room glowed with soft, golden light from the chandelier, the table neatly set with the kind of care that only my mother ever gave to family dinners. It looked warm and welcoming, but for me, it felt like a stage. I could already sense the tension the moment I walked in. My brother barely looked up from his phone, my sister gave a tight smile, and my father's eyes carried that familiar mix of disappointment and irritation. We hadn't even finished the soup when my mother started in. "So, what exactly are you doing with your life these days?" Her tone wasn't curious. It was sharp, performative. Everyone went quiet, waiting for my answer. I swallowed and said, "I'm working on a new business. It's small, but it's growing." My father snorted. "Growing? You mean wasting your time again?" Then came the laughter, light from my sister, heavy from my brother. I tried to brush it off, but my mother leaned forward, a glass of wine in hand, and said, "You know, no one in this family actually likes you when you talk about these fantasies. You always bring the mood down." The words hit like a knife. For a second, I thought I'd misheard, but then my father nodded and said, "She's right. You never fit in. You make everything about you." Silence followed, thick and heavy, broken only by the clinking of a fork against a plate. My brother muttered something about me being too sensitive, and everyone laughed again. I forced a smile, pretending it didn't sting, but my hands trembled under the table. That night, I realized something. I'd been trying to earn their approval for years. Every job, every achievement, every call was just me begging them to see me as enough. But no matter what I did, I'd always be the outsider in my own family. So I decided then, if they wanted me gone, they'd get their wish. But they'd also see what happens when the person they dismissed finally stops trying to belong. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. The house was quiet, just the faint hum of the fridge and the sound of my parents' voices muffled upstairs. I stared at the ceiling for a long time, letting their words from last night echo in my head. "No one in this family actually likes you." I thought I'd feel angry, but instead, I just felt empty and strangely calm. I packed my things slowly. No drama, no notes, no explanations. Just the essentials, my laptop, camera, and a small suitcase. Before I walked out, I took one last look at the family portraits lining the hallway. I was in a few of them, always on the edge, always smiling a little too hard, like someone trying to belong. I left without saying goodbye. For months, I cut off contact completely. I rented a small apartment downtown and poured everything into my startup, an online consulting platform I'd been quietly building for months. Days blurred into nights. I barely slept, barely ate, but I was obsessed. Every time exhaustion crept in, I'd hear my mother's voice. "You're always chasing fantasies." Those words became fuel. The business started picking up traction. One client turned into 5, then 50. I learned how to market, how to hire, how to fail, and restart, all on my own. I was broke for a while, but it didn't matter. The freedom, the silence, the lack of their judgment, it was intoxicating. 6 months later, I launched a new version of the platform. Within weeks, it went viral after a major influencer used it and shared their results. Overnight, my inbox exploded. Deals, partnerships, investors, people I'd never met suddenly wanted to work with me. By the end of the year, I'd built something real, something that worked. I moved into a sleek downtown condo, bought a car, and finally felt like I was standing on my own 2 feet. Not because I needed to prove anything to them, but because I finally believed in myself. Then one evening, as I was closing my laptop, my phone buzzed. It was my mother. I hadn't heard from her in almost a year. For a few seconds, I just stared at the screen. I didn't want to answer, but something in me needed closure. "Hello." There was silence. Then her voice, cautious, almost trembling. We saw the article about your company. Everyone's talking about it. Your father says you're doing well." I didn't respond. Then came the line I never expected to hear. "We're proud of you. We always knew you'd make something of yourself." I laughed. I couldn't help it. "No, you didn't. You told me no one in this family liked me." Her tone shifted, defensive. "Oh, come on. We were joking. Families say things. You know how your father gets." I felt a wave of old anger rise up, but I didn't let it control me. "You weren't joking." And that night, you gave me the best gift of my life, the freedom to stop caring about what you think. There was silence again, this time heavier. Then she said quietly, "We're having a dinner next week. Everyone's coming. Maybe you could." I cut her off gently. "No, I already have plans. Real ones." I hung up, feeling an ache, not from loss, but from release. For the first time, I understood what peace felt like. That weekend, I hosted my own dinner with people who chose to be in my life, friends, colleagues, and the small team who helped me build everything from scratch. There was laughter, warmth, and no judgment. It wasn't a family by blood, but it was a family by heart. As I looked around that table, I realized something I wished I'd known years ago. You can't earn love from people who only offer it when it benefits them. But you can build your own version of family, one that grows from mutual respect and care. And that's exactly what I did. A few months later, I got a message from my sister. She said Mom had been asking about me constantly, and Dad had started following my company page online. I didn't reply, not because I was angry anymore, but because I didn't need to. The silence between us said everything that needed to be said. One evening, as I drove home from work, I passed our old house. The lights were on, same curtains, same front porch I used to sit on, wondering why I never fit in. But that night, looking at it from my car, I finally understood it wasn't me who didn't fit. It was the version of me they wanted to control that no longer existed. I'd built a life without their approval, a life that didn't rely on being liked, just respected. My success wasn't revenge. It was survival turned into strength. I didn't need to prove my worth to the people who had once mocked it. Sometimes, the greatest peace doesn't come from forgiveness or reconciliation. It comes from realizing you're better off, not seeking either. That night, I drove away smiling, feeling lighter than I had in years. I wasn't the outcast anymore. I was free. In the end, I didn't need their approval, apology, or presence. I built a life that spoke louder than their laughter ever did. The peace I found wasn't in proving them wrong. It was in realizing I no longer had to. Sometimes walking away isn't weakness. It's choosing your own happiness over their validation.